My Give a Damn's Busted by Carolyn Brown. Okay, and yes, that's about the Jody Messina and Joe Diffie song. And here we go. We're going to start on page 320. Hank would much rather have been next to Larissa. He put a little more speed into his step, but Haley kept pace. So are you and your sister just visiting the ranch, or do you live here permanently? I'm new at Palo Pinto School, and this is my first time out here. The principal said this is a yearly event, and to tell you the truth, I wasn't looking forward to it, but your dad has been so good with the kids. Bobby Dean and Ruby Jane might come out of their shells because of today. How did he know? He's good that way, but Hank had to tip off his tongue to tell Larissa was not his sister. Natalie ran up and grabbed the teacher's leg. Miss Haley, I gotta go to the bathroom, and I don't know where it is. I'll take her, Larissa said. Thank you, Ms. Wells. I never did get your first name. Larissa, she said as Natalie drug her off toward the front door, and I'm not Ms. Wells. Oh, okay, Haley blushed and turned to Hank as they walked up on the porch together. I'm not usually this forward, but I'm a very good cook, and I'd like to invite you to dinner at my house one day next week. Call it a thank you for what you're doing today. Kids surrounded them, and Henry slung open the door. Do you hear that? Every sound stopped when they looked at him. I think that might be why. Yes, it is, he said. The dinner bell clanged loudly. They all shouted and high-fived one another. Larissa and Natalie came out of the bathroom while everyone was lining up for Miss Haley to hand them a wet wipe to clean their hands before they ate. Oma had set up 2 card tables, either of them end of the long dining room tables, so they could sit together. She went around the table asking each child their name, visiting them, and then she grabbed Hank's arm and pulled him into the kitchen to help her. You are about to ruin everything, she hissed as she put the chili and cheese on top of a hot dog bun. He frowned. What are you talking about? Flirting with that school teacher right under Miss Larissa's nose. She ain't blind, she ain't stupid. She can see what's going on. You want her to trust you? Well, you better do different than what you've been doing today. Not that it's a bit of my business, but I can see at what I see, and I ain't one to keep my mouth shut. You ain't going to win her over by making her jealous. You got to win her by showing her that she's the only one. Hank's temper flared. I wasn't doing anything but being a good host. Larissa will understand. If you think that, then you got brain fever. Take this plate out there to that little boy with the big thick glasses. He needs some help on his ego building, so he can get the first plate, and he's already told me what he wants on his hot dog, she said. That's Bobby Dean, and Dad saw the same thing, but Oma, I wasn't flirting. Who are you trying to convince, me or you? She asked. Hello, you need some help? I'm just standing in here with nothing to do. Mr. Wells is entertaining the kids with a story about the old chuck wagon days. He sure got away with the children. Are you his only child then? Haley asked. 320, 321, 322. Here's page 323. Yes, I am his only child. He picked up a plate and hurried past Haley. You can carry these chips out there. Oma handed her a basket filled with individual bags of chips. I can do that, ma'am, Haley said. So what does Larissa? Larissa came around the corner. Did someone mention my name? Yes, I'm sorry. I thought you were Henry's daughter. What is your job on the ranch? Larissa smiled. Oma, do I have a job title? Lord, no, Oma exclaimed. Haley took the chips to the table and passed out a bag to each student. Got any more ready? Hank joined them. 2. Start on your left, and Bobby Dean's deliver these 2 and get 2 more orders. Oma handed him 2 paper plates. Here, I will fix Ruby Jane's and Garrett's and take theirs out to him. I heard their orders. Nothing but ketchup and wieners, Larissa said. Haley returned to the kitchen and asked, so is she just a friend of the family? Larissa's a lot more than that, Oma said. I keep hearing my name. I need 2 with mustard only, Larissa said. I want to know where you fit in here. I asked Hank to dinner at my house one day next week to thank him for today, Haley said. And what did Hank say? Larissa asked. Hank returned for 2 more plates. I didn't say anything because of the circus going on around us. Miss Haley, I thank you for the invitation, but I'm involved with someone right now that I'm pretty serious about. Fair enough, but if you ever get uninvolved, please give me a call. The invitation stands. Now, what else can I do, Oma? Oma pointed out juice packs while lined up on the tray, several different flavors for each of them to choose from. After they finished eating all the hot dogs they could hold, we've got chocolate chip cookies and chocolate cake. Haley picked up the tray and said, you never did answer me about what it is you do on the ranch. She's that person I'm involved with, Hank said. Oops, well, this is awkward. Haley giggled and darted to the dining room table. "Why'd you do that?" Larissa asked. "I'd like to stand up on the roof and shout it," Hank said. "Don't you dare." "Why, you got someone else you're having dinner with this week?" "Maybe." Hank stood perfectly still. His heart stopped, then only beat half a speed. His stomach tied itself into a pretzel. It had never entered his mind that she might have fallen for someone else between the town meeting and the time they met again in Dallas. "Who?" he growled. "Jealous?" she asked. "As hell." "Good. Now you know how I felt when I had to sit across the rodeo arena and watch you two flirt." "Who are you having dinner with, and why? What?" "And I wasn't flirting." "But you weren't making her stop when she was," Larissa said. "I didn't know she was flirting. I thought she was just being nice 'cause we're hosting the play day," he whispered. "Being nice doesn't involve batting eyelashes," Larissa said. "See, I told you," Oma said. "Who are you having dinner with?" he asked. "Probably Stallone or Luther," she said. He swallowed hard. "That's not funny." "Neither was this morning." "Are we fighting?" he asked. "Hell yeah!" Oma giggled behind them. "Fight all you want, but keep your voices down. Them kids don't need to hear anything but a good time today. When you get finished fighting, go somewhere and make up." "You were right, Oma. We've got jobs to do. We'll finish this later." Larissa went back to the table to see if her girls needed anything. After dinner, the children had 30 minutes of free time to climb fences, pet sheep, or a horse that Henry brought from the barn. "Can we ride her?" Garnet asked. "Sure you can." Henry set her up on the saddle and led the horse around the yard. When he brought her back in line, had formed with Ruby Jane at front. Everyone had turned around the yard, and when they took up all back to the area where they set up the mutton ride, he chose 2 big woolly sheep from the stock and put them in the arena. Then he turned 2 kids at a time into the pen. Their job was to work together to catch one of the animals and stay on it 8 seconds. Each team had 5 minutes, and the bull was tame compared to the sheep. That was page 324, 325, and here comes 326 and 27. Larissa held her sides and laughed until tears messed up her makeup, watching the first 2 little boys try to ride the sheep. If they were all as funny as the first 2, she wouldn't be able to work all night for her aching ribs. She felt Hank's presence behind her before she even looked over her shoulders to find them close enough she could see individual eyelashes. "How many of them do you want?" he asked. "Stallone would get really mad if I brought home a sheep into the house." Hank touched her arm. "I'm talking about little boys." "Well, I'll take Bobby Dean and Ross. The rest can go home with the teacher." Hank slipped an arm around her waist and buried his face in her hair. "How many of your own do you want?" "One at a time." She got tickled all over again when it was Ross and Josh's turn in the pen. They chased, they mounted, they fell on their hind ends, they fell on their faces, they yelled, and with the sheep went in the corner to refuse to move. "How many times?" Hank asked. "On days like this, a dozen. When they have colic and all those god-awful things that baby have, none," she said. That was 326, 327. And we're going to 328. Looks like right about here. "I might name the first one Garnet," Larissa said. Hank grinned. "So there might be a first one? I thought Ruby Jane had you wrapped up tight around her little finger." "I should name one little girl Ruby. Maybe I'll have a boy first and name him Ruby." "Good God, you will not." "God isn't just good, God is great. Beer is good, people are crazy. If you don't believe me, ask Billy Currington when he sings that song," she said. Anything to get her mind off having children. She and Hank had a long way to go to see if they were compatible. She'd never bring a child into the world unless she was 100% sure that it would have both a mother and a father. She'd been down that single parent, no parent road. It was a very bumpy ride. Page 329. Henry stooped down and put a hand on the boy's shoulder. "What's the matter, son?" "I got whooped on the bull and the barrel racing, and I wanted a new pair of boots, and now I got to dance with a dumb old girl," he said. "How about you?" Larissa whispered to Hank. "Do you got to dance with a dumb old girl?" "I was hoping that I might get to dance with the prettiest one here." His warm breath caressed her earlobe and sent shivers up her spine. Henry chuckled. "Mitch, my boy, do you know how to dance?" "Daddy's been teaching me." "Well, I bet one of them girls would be honored to dance with you," Henry said. "Garnet's the only one I like." Mitch blushed. "Then I'll give you the first dance with her, and I'll see to it that it's a 2-step. Is that what your daddy's been teaching you?" Henry remembered when Hank was about that size, and he'd taken him to a sale barn dance. Mitch nodded. The dancing amused Larissa even more than the mutton busting. The girls came out of the bathroom with their faces wet and glowing and handprints on their jeans where they had used them to dry rather than hand towels. Okay, the first song is a slow one. Sorry, Garnet. We'll have to do that line dance later, Henry said. We've only got about 4 girls, so you boys better get up your courage. Big old dudes like us ain't afraid to my bull or the sheep ought to be able to ask a girl to dance, Henry said. Bobby Dean was the first one on his feet. He crossed the yard from the chairs set up on the back of the porch and held out his hand to Ruby. Miss Ruby Jane Torres, would you dance with me? She put her hand in his, and they led to the middle of the yard. Henry raced over to the CD player and pushed a button. Garth Brooks's The Dance played, and Bobby put one hand on Ruby's shoulder, pushed his glasses up on his nose with the other, and then slipped it around her waist. She put her hand on his shoulder and hooked the other with a belt loop at the back, like she'd seen her mother do when she danced with her father in the kitchen. It might have not been the best two-stepping Larissa had ever seen, but it was the most animated. They didn't just listen to the music, but barely moved their feet as they looked at everywhere but at each other. That was page 328, 329, 330, 332. Hank slipped Larissa's hand into his. Someday I'll take you on a real rodeo with real bulls, bronc riders, and barrel racers. It wouldn't be a bit more fun than this one. I loved it all. Even the jealousy, he asked. Even that, she smiled. You coming into town tonight? Will you save me a dance? Don't dance with the customers, she said. He kissed her forehead. Think I'll ever be more than that in a honky-tonk? Long as you don't go to dinner with Miss Haley's house, you might have a fighting chance, but if you do, I'm going to kick you in the shins. Okay, I thought that was so cute. Moving forward, page 344, I have mark, but where did I mark it at? Isn't that terrible when you don't know your own handwriting? She parked in the lot at the honky-tonk, was about to open the door when her cell phone rang. She didn't even look at the caller ID because she was sure it was Hank. Hello, cowboy, she said. Well, hello to you, but I'm no cowboy. Who were you expecting? Doreen asked. Hank, I just left a kiddie rodeo at his ranch, and Hank is on his way back to the ranch. What happened? I know Victoria was angry with him, but I didn't know he'd gone to Henry's. Tell me about it, and then I'll tell you about my news. He came back. He wants to see me again. I'm not sure if he'll stay. I'm afraid he'll get bored. Your turn. Oh, no, that's not going to do. I saved an hour for this phone call, and my news takes 5 minutes, so talk and start at the beginning, Doreen said. Okay, in the beginning, God made dirt, and Henry bought some of it, Larissa said. You don't have to go that far. Start with when you got home from the benefit. How long did it take Hank to get there? Okay, once upon the time, a honky-tonk angel was sleeping when she heard the noises on her front porch. Larissa went on to tell Doreen the whole story, and now I've got to get to the honky-tonk because the beer man is coming to restock. Your news? Rupert and I got married this morning. His mother died last week, and it wouldn't be proper to have a big wedding so soon after a funeral. I would have called you, but you didn't know that lady, and I'd met her only once. She was in a care facility and didn't even know who Rupert was most days. Anyway, we just had a civil ceremony. However, I'm calling Martha and Victoria and telling them they can do a reception next month. None of you will have to fly here after all, but you know you're welcome any time you want to come see us. We're going to do a honeymoon on the island that he owns for a couple weeks and then do some sightseeing. After that, we'll be in Dallas for a week like that you plan to be in Italy. Wow, congratulations, Mom, and tell Rupert I'm glad to have him in the family, Larissa said. Thank you. I'll make plans at the Hyatt for you. Would you like to bring your friend Charlene? We could have planned that reception on Sunday night so you both could be here away from your beer joint. Yes, I would like that, and thank you for thinking of her. She'll squeal and talk my ears off. What? Charlene likes to talk too much, especially when she's nervous. Doreen laughed. So does Victoria. The great Victoria Radnor has a fault? Oh, yes, sweetheart. When you get to know her, you'll be amazed at how many she has. I'm not telling you any more, though, or she'll tell you all about mine. The great Doreen Lawson has a fault? Larissa giggled. Lady Doreen Giovanni now, she said. Well, la ti damn da, Larissa said. and Lady Doreen has a fault or two that she'd just as soon her daughter didn't know about, Doreen said. That was 332, 333, 334. Here comes 335. Now that you've got my curiosity piqued, Larissa said, does Lady Doreen's daughter have anything she doesn't want her mother to know about, like the tabloids in Italy or England that might find amusing? Aside from the fact that she owns and operates a beer joint down in Texas, United States of wonderful America, I can't think of a thing, she said. Doreen laughed. I'll see you in a few weeks, and don't forget a single detail about what happens with your cowboy. You got it, Larissa said and flipped her phone shut. She went in the honky-tonk to find Charlene mopping the floor. Put that down and open a beer first. You got to hear about my day. Moving forward, big hunk of book we just missed, and you'll want to pick up this book to find out all the juicy details. Page 350. His heart wanted Larissa to be there forever, and he wanted to fall down on one knee and propose, but he couldn't. Not until he'd proven himself that he truly was a rancher. He couldn't offer her a life until he'd take care of his own doubts. He drove back to his mother's beautiful estate on the outskirts of Dallas. When he pulled up in the circular driveway in front of the house, Leroy the butler came out to greet him and take his keys. She's waiting in the library, and you are 2 minutes late, Leroy said. Yes, sir, Hank said. If that kiss had led to something more, he would have been even later. You're late. You know I expect punctuality, Victoria said when he slung the door open. She had changed into a royal blue velvet lounge outfit that had taken her hair down. I don't work for you anymore, he said, but you will always be my son, and as such you should be on time. He poured 2 fingers of scotch into a glass and sat down. How is it that you are so animated and free with your friends, and you treat me like an employee? She sipped her drink and then set it down on the coffee table, separating them. They shared a brown leather sofa, one on one end and one on the other. There was a space between them. Books lined 3 walls with 4 of one solid glass looking over the gardens. It was a blaze full of fall colors in yellow and orange at a time of year that 2 full-time gardeners were kept busy 5 days a week. Are you happy up there playing in the dirt? She asked. I am, and you didn't answer my question. You always did have more of him than me and you. I hate that, and I worked so hard to keep you away from that damn ranch. You've got a life here, one of the relative ease, and you were happy until you went to that God-forsaken crap hole. I'll answer your question. Martha and Doreen have known since we were kids. I can be like that with them. Carefree as a child. With you, it's different. I just can't explain it. She's fumbled for the coaster. Okay, fair enough. There are things I can't explain either, so fire away. Give me your best speech. 350, 351, here comes 352. Victoria shook her head. I don't have a speech. I will offer you your old job back with a substantial raise, the penthouse apartment with the corporation and company car, until you can get that ugly truck sold. The offer is on the table for exactly 5 minutes. She looked at her watch. He shook his head. No, but thank you. What if I said forever, that you could come back here any time and it would be always waiting for you? Answer would still be the same. I'm in love with Larissa, Mother. I want to spend my life with her. I can't ask her to trust me with my heart until I'm sure I'm trustworthy. I hurt her, and I have to go slow when I want to rush in with both feet and my heart and my soul. Victoria gasped. You cannot be serious. That girl might be Doreen's child, but she's a bartender, for God's sakes, Hayes. I can't have a daughter-in-law who owns a beer joint in Mingus, Texas. Maybe not, but I could easily have a wife who does. It'll be your loss if you can't get past that. Good night, Mother, he said. Good night, Hayes, and I won't change my mind. I won't either. He started up the stairs to his old bedroom and thought that if he was at the ranch, Henry would have said, Good night, son. And that was page 352. Moving to 357 and 358. Hello, he answered immediately. Did I interrupt anything with your mother? No, that's over, he said. I've got the most amazing news and I want to share it with you, and I don't want to do it over the phone. And, Hank butted in, slow down, Larissa. Was that the present, not a bottle of fancy wine, or was it so good that you want to share it with me? I really wanted to see you tonight, too. It's better than musty old wine from Italy, she said. Larissa? She held the phone away from her ear and looked at it. I'm right here, he said. She looked up to see him standing in front of the elevators. They each took a dozen long strides, and she threw herself in his arms and hugged him tightly. You go first, because when I start, I won't be able to stop. Let's go to get a cup of coffee and talk. They sat at the same table in the cafe where they'd been at. Victoria and the rest of the family were there. He told her about his conversation with his mother, and she told him the incredible story of her father. When she finished, she reached across the table and wrapped her hands around his. Page 370. Suddenly, Larissa had a burr in her underpants and put a damper on the near-perfect previous evening. She tried wiggling it away, but it wouldn't budge. She had to work on it later because she wanted that sweet feeling back that she had when Hank kissed her that morning. But she wanted to relive the joy of meeting her father and that damn sure feeling of ecstasy of what she and Hank had shared the night before. It really didn't matter where she had Thanksgiving. She could eat it in a pallet in the smokehouse parking lot in the middle of the ice storm. So why did it upset her that Hank hadn't jumped on the bandwagon with her to go to Perry? And in her mind, she's thinking, because I'm afraid to ride the rainbow for fear it's going to slap me right on into misery again. If I let him go getting close to me and start making decisions and he gets tired of living a rancher's life, he will leave me behind with the ranch. It's like walking a tightrope with no net and trusting partner not to push me off into a cold, hard ground. If I'm ever going to have a real relationship past the bedroom with this cowboy, I have to trust him. And sometimes that can be really hard to do. Page 380 and 381. Where are Hank and Henry? It's been years since I've seen that tall old cowboy. I've been looking forward to visiting with him about Ruby Lee. Charlene hugged her and handed her a beer. He's on the way. Should be here any minute. Larissa doesn't want us to notice that she's been watching the door for an hour. I have not. Have not what? Hank opened up the door and let Oma and Henry inside and shut it behind him. You have not what? Charlene went to take the casserole dish from Henry. She's been watching for you and getting antsy. You know what that means? Hank nodded. That she's hungry. That she's going to throw rocks at you on the playground during recess. I think she might like you. Charlene said the curse of the honky-tonk has struck again. It has not, Larissa said right behind her. She walked right into Hank's arms and she laid her head on his chest. The sound of the heartbeat was in her ears, and it was so peaceful that she hated to open her eyes. Page 389. We're getting very close to the end, folks. Larissa sat on the edge of the bathtub. Every second that ticked off the clock lasted 2 hours. Her hands felt clammy. Her stomach was tied up in a pretzel. Finally, the second hand had made its way around the numbers one last time. She picked up the stick and shut her eyes. She should have called Charlene to come look for her, but she couldn't tell anyone her biggest fear. She opened up one tiny eye, slit and stick looked fuzzy, but there was nothing to do but spring with them both open and find out. Dear God! She threw the stick in the trash as if it was evil and threw up in the potty. She went back to bed, rolled on her side, and thought about the line on the pregnancy stick. Hank mumbled something in his sleep, slipped one arm under her and around her, and molded his neck and body next to her back. He nuzzled his face into her hair and slowly opened his eyes. Have I told you this morning that I love you? I don't think you ever told me that, she said. He hadn't even ever said those words 6 weeks before when they had that fabulous 3-act boom bout in the hotel in Dallas. Lord, when did that happen? She counted backwards and remembered every single time since then, and the test to be positive, it had to have happened at the Hyatt in Dallas. Well, I'm telling you right now, and I know it's too early to say the words, but I wanted to for a long, long time. I love you, Larissa Morley, with all my whole heart. And why are you crying? She nodded. You know I love you, and for the record, I've never said those words to another man. I'm just all emotional this morning. He turned her face to face him and stung kisses down her neck. I'm in awe. Well, get ready to be stunned as well as in awe, she said. Are you going to propose to me? I thought you might a week ago after the family night at Honky Tonk, but my hopes were dashed when all you did was come home with a decent hour, he teased. It felt so good to say those 3 words, to hear her get them off his chest and let her know that he was serious about the relationship and commitment. No, I'll leave that job to you. Please don't feel like you have to. He jumped off the bed, pulled her up to a sitting position, dropped down on one knee in front of her, naked as the day he was born. He took her hand in his and said, Larissa Morley, will you marry me? We can have a long engagement. I'll wait forever if you'll just give me some hope. You can work at the Honky Tonk and we'll live at this ranch. Or we can live right here in this god-awful house. I'll even commute back and forth so we go to the ranch every day. Her dark eyelashes couldn't keep the tears back. He had proposed before she told him. She never felt like he'd been doing his duty. That was page 389, 390, and here's 391. He got up off his knees and sat back down on the bed beside her. He figured she couldn't say yes because she still couldn't trust him. And she couldn't hurt his feelings by saying no. He took her hands in his. Darling, don't cry. You don't have to give me an answer right now. I'll wait 6 months and ask you again. I can't, she sobbed. He hugged her tightly. I'm sorry to put you in such a spot. I was so excited to hear you say those words, and I love you so much. I can't tell you because I'm afraid you'll be upset. It was an accident. I promise I didn't do it on purpose, she said. Larissa, what in the devil are you talking about? You didn't do what on purpose? The stick is in the trash. I thought I was getting the flu or that I eaten something wrong, but the stick is positive, and She laid her head on his chest and wept. Stick? Positive? He frowned. I'm pregnant. She jumped up and grabbed her and danced around the bed. I love you, and I'm not mad, and I wouldn't give a damn if you did do it on purpose. Her tears turned to laughter. Really? Page 392. Yes, really. When are we getting married? I love you too, Hank Wells. Is tomorrow soon enough? The courthouse isn't open on Sunday. They were married the next morning at the courthouse in Palo Pinto. The court clerk and the janitor served as witnesses to the wedding. She wore an off-white lace dress and a new white dress with dress boots she'd gotten on sale in Dallas when her mother and her went shopping. Hank wore the same Western suit that he wore to Doreen and Rupert's reception. He picked her up like a new bride, and the kisses started when they left the courthouse doors. I love you, Larissa Wells, he said between kisses so hot that they could have heated up all of Palo Pinto County. I love you, Hank Wells, and you sure don't want to stop at a motel between here and the ranch. He chuckled as he set her in the passenger seat. Honey, there's not even a gas station between here and the ranch. We'll have to tell Henry to stop by and let Charlene know the news. Then they'll go anywhere you want, as long as I don't have to share you for a whole week. Will Henry be all right at the ranch that long without you? She asked. To get you, Henry would let me leave a month. He pulled her close to his side. I can't believe we're married and we're going to have a son. You better hope it's a girl because its name is Ruby, she said. Victoria, he said with a frown on his face. She giggled. I like Ruby, Victoria. I like it. I wasn't asking to use her name. I was thinking about you would just go up in flames if the baby was a girl and you named the baby Ruby. Flames won't even begin to describe the inferno. She'll be set blazing if you put her name in there with Ruby's. Flames. Maybe she'll have red hair like her mother. I don't know which would be happier about, Cowboy, me as a bride or the baby, she said. He tilted her chin up, kissed her tenderly yet passionately. Darling, we might have a dozen kids, or this might be our only chick. I will love whatever we are blessed with, but you will always be number one with me. I keep pinching myself to assure myself that I'm not dreaming and touching you to make sure that you aren't going to vanish into a puff of smoke. Have I told you today that you are a stunning bride? Tears welled up in her eyes. You are making me all weepy again. You are making me happy. I love you, she whispered, and that still amazes me. Everything we've been through, I love you too. Aww. Okay, that was page 392 to 393. Moving forward. 396, 397, 398, and 399, which takes us to the end, and you get a book rating. So here's 396. The reception was held at the middle of the afternoon on a Sunday. Everyone in town was invited. Doreen and Rupert arrived at an early hour. Victoria arrived 15 minutes late. Larissa wore her wedding dress, a wide gold band, and a big smile. Hank was dressed in his Western suit. Pictures were taken. Merle served punch, and Linda, Betty, and Janice took care of the cake and finger foods. When the parents were all there, Charlene picked up the microphone from her karaoke machine and said, Family and friends, we are here to celebrate Larissa finding her charming cowboy and proving that the honky-tonk charm worked one final time. Larissa has given me the honky-tonk and I'm here to stay. 3 times is the limit of any genie on a lamp or magic. Luther is putting money into the jukebox right now for the first bride and groom dance. While they're dancing, cake and punch are being served at the bar is open for anyone who wants something stronger. Hank led Larissa to the middle of the floor. She wrapped both arms around his neck and nodded at Luther. Please tell me he isn't going to play My Give-A-Damn's Busted, Hank whispered. Well, it damn sure was. Thank goodness it wasn't completely broken. There were a few parts where we could fix it. I had to go on an old give-a-damn graveyard to find the parts, she teased. Where is that graveyard, just in case I mess up again and I might need to find a part or two, Hank asked. It's out on the back side of the Lazy R Ranch, up on a rise, she said. He tilted her chin with a fist. His whiskey-colored eyes met her dark brown ones, and his lips found hers in a lingering kiss. Garth Brooks sang, "To make you feel my love." The lyrics talked about everything he would do to make her feel his love. He sang that he could hold her for 1,000,000 years, and that he'd known in that moment that they met that there was no doubt where she belonged, that he would go hungry and would crawl down the avenue to make her feel his love. He said that she hadn't seen nothing like him, and that he would go to the ends of earth to make her happy and make her dreams come true. When the song ended, Hank kissed Larissa passionately. "Do you really feel like that? If I didn't, I wouldn't be married to you." He led her off the dance floor. "I want to buy that CD and play it for you every single night." Victoria slid off a bar stool and met them at the edge of the floor. "Hank?" "Mother, I can't believe you called me Hank." "Would you give me and Larissa a moment?" she asked. He looked at his new bride, and then she nodded. "But only a moment, Mother. I will never share her very well, and I won't leave her side very long. I'll get us some punch, darling," he said. Larissa looked at Victoria. "Yes, ma'am?" "I still don't like you," Victoria said. "I wasn't expecting a miracle right along with my wedding and marriage license. Frankly, I don't give a damn if you like me or not, but I reckon we can call a truce a few times a year for Hank, can't we? And then there's this matter of your grandchild." "Dear God, so that's why you roped him in," Victoria said. "No, he proposed to me before he knew about the baby. If he hadn't, I wouldn't have married him. We are in love. It's your choice to be a part of our lives or not. I won't force anything on you," Larissa said. "You are more like your mother than I thought. She always could put me in my place. Okay, then I will try." Victoria pouted. "That's a start," Larissa said. Henry touched Victoria on the shoulder. "Could I have this dance?" "My God, Henry, I forgot you would be here," she gasped. He held out a hand. "You looking good, Vic." To Larissa's surprise, she walked right into his arms. Garth began to sing, "If Tomorrow Never Comes." Hank crossed the room in a dozen long strides and took Larissa in his arms. "What did she say?" he asked. "Not much that I can think of. Everything is going to be just fine." Larissa smiled up at him. "Do you think they're listening to the words of this song?" "No, but I am," he said, "and I intend to tell you every day and try in every way to prove that you are my only one, just like he's saying." "Have I told you in the last 5 minutes how much I love you?" she whispered. "Yes, but I'll never get tired of hearing those words," he said. "Look over there." Larry was leading Doreen to the dance floor, and Rupert had thrown an arm around Mary Beth. Larissa sighed, "And it all came about because of a thumbtack stuck in the middle of the map of the United States." The end. Now, there is a new one of these books coming out. It's Honky Tonk Christmas. I found it on eBay last night, and I did order it. So I cannot wait to read that book and share it with you. So it is not the end of this series, but hasn't it been a wonderful series? And just like the past two books, this book gets a 35, which is off the charts. Must read. You won't regret it. Stay tuned, because I'm going to do Dear Bombshell next.